I am Sarah, 32 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I knew everything about my family. I work as a paralegal at a small law firm downtown, living a quiet life with predictable routines. My father's sudden death from a heart attack shattered that illusion. What happened at his funeral didn't just expose his secrets. It revealed my mother had been playing a chess game none of us knew existed. When a woman half his age stood up during the service claiming to carry his child and demanding half his $8 million estate, we all thought Mom's world would crumble. We were wrong. If you want to see how a grieving widow can turn the tables on a gold-digging mistress with one simple document, stick around. Before I continue, let me know where you're watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe if you want to hear more stories about family secrets and the ultimate revenge served ice cold. My father, William Chen, was what most people would call successful. At 58, he owned 3 electronics stores across the state, drove a Tesla, and lived in a house that screamed upper-middle-class prosperity. To the outside world, he was the American dream personified, an immigrant who built an empire from nothing, married his college sweetheart, and raised 2 daughters who never wanted for anything. But success and happiness aren't the same thing, as I learned growing up in that big house with its marble countertops and empty conversations. My mother, Linda, was the backbone of everything my father built. While he was the face of the business, she was the one who kept the books, managed inventory, and made sure employees got paid on time. She had a master's degree in accounting but chose to work behind the scenes, supporting Dad's vision while raising my younger sister Emma and me. Mom was always elegant in an understated way. She never wore flashy jewelry or designer clothes like the other wives in our neighborhood. Instead, she favored simple, well-tailored pieces that she kept for years. She had this quiet strength about her, the kind that didn't need to announce itself. When other moms were having wine-fueled complaints about their husbands at book club, Mom just smiled and changed the subject. Growing up, I noticed things other kids might have missed. The way Dad's business trips became more frequent over the years. How he'd come home smelling like perfume that wasn't Mom's. The credit card statements Mom would study late at night when she thought we were asleep. Her reading glasses perched on her nose as she made notes in a leather journal. Emma, who's now 28, was always Daddy's little girl. She chose to see only what she wanted, the generous father who bought her a car for her 16th birthday, paid for her expensive art degree, and never missed her gallery openings. She lived in a renovated loft downtown, pursuing her passion for abstract painting with the financial cushion of Dad's monthly checks. I was different. Maybe it was because I was older, or maybe because I inherited Mom's observant nature, but I saw the cracks in our family's facade, the separate bedrooms my parents kept because of Dad's snoring. The way Mom's smile never quite reached her eyes during family photos. The Thursday nights when Dad worked late, and Mom would pour herself exactly 1 glass of wine and sit on the porch, staring at nothing. 3 weeks ago, everything changed. Dad was at his flagship store doing inventory when he collapsed. The doctors said it was a massive heart attack. He was gone before the ambulance arrived. One moment he was counting stock, the next he was gone, leaving behind a grieving family and, as we'd soon discover, a tangled web of secrets. Mom handled the news with her characteristic composure. She made the necessary calls, arranged the funeral, and contacted Dad's lawyer about the estate. Emma fell apart, sobbing dramatically, and posting lengthy tributes on social media about losing her hero. I found myself somewhere in between, grieving the father I had while wondering how well I'd really known him. The morning of the funeral, Mom asked me to come early to help with arrangements. I found her in Dad's study, going through papers with methodical precision. She was dressed in a simple black dress, her hair pulled back in an elegant bun, pearl earrings her only jewelry. "Sarah," she said without looking up, "I need you to know something. Today might get complicated. Whatever happens, I need you to trust that I have my reasons." "Mom, what are you talking about?" She finally looked at me, and for the first time since Dad died, I saw something other than grief in her eyes. It looked almost like anticipation. "Your father wasn't the man everyone thought he was. But then again, I'm not the woman everyone thinks I am either." The service was packed. Dad's business associates, Country club friends and extended family filled every pew. The pastor was midway through his eulogy when the chapel doors opened. She couldn't have been more than 25, with long auburn hair, a designer black dress that was a little too tight for a funeral, and heels that clicked loudly on the chapel floor. But it was her condition that made everyone gasp. She was visibly pregnant, probably 6 or 7 months along. "I'm sorry I'm late," she announced, her voice carrying through the stunned silence. "Traffic was terrible, and in my condition I had to stop several times." She walked down the aisle with the confidence of someone who belonged there, finally taking a seat in the front row, the family row, right next to my shocked Aunt Patricia. When it came time for people to share memories, she stood up. "My name is Brittany Morrison," she said, turning to face the congregation, "and I need everyone here to know the truth. William wasn't just my boss at the store. He was my lover for the past 2 years, and," she placed both hands on her belly, "the father of my child." The chapel erupted. Emma let out a strangled sob. "But Mom?" Mom stood up slowly, gracefully, and walked to the podium. "Thank you for sharing that, Brittany," she said, her voice steady and clear. "Please continue. I'm sure everyone would love to hear more." "William promised to take care of me and our baby," Brittany continued, gaining confidence. "He said he was leaving his wife. He said we'd be together. And now that he's gone, I want what's rightfully mine. Half of everything he built. It belongs to me and his unborn child." "Is that so?" Mom asked, still unnaturally calm. "And do you have any proof of these promises?" Brittany pulled out her phone with a triumphant smile. "Text messages, hundreds of them, some quite explicit. Would you like me to read them aloud?" "That won't be necessary," Mom said. "I've seen them. I've seen all of them, actually, including the ones from your other boyfriend, Jake Martinez. You remember Jake, don't you? The personal trainer from your gym?" Brittany's face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." "No? That's strange. Because Jake certainly knows about you. In fact, he's been very cooperative. He showed me some fascinating messages where you discussed, what was the phrase, securing the bag from the rich old fool?" Mom pulled out a folder from her purse. She'd brought it to the funeral, I realized. She'd been prepared for this. "3 months ago," Mom continued, "I hired a private investigator. Not to follow my husband. I already knew about his indiscretions. But to follow you, Brittany. You see, you weren't William's first affair, but you were certainly his most ambitious." She opened the folder and pulled out a document. "This is particularly interesting. It's a DNA test, a prenatal paternity test to be specific. They can do those now with just a blood sample from the mother. No risk to the baby." The chapel was dead silent. "Would you like to know the results, Brittany? Or should I say, would you like everyone here to know that William is definitively not the father of your child? Jake Martinez, however, is a 99.9% match." "This is fake!" Brittany shouted. "You fabricated this." "Did I also fabricate the video from the fertility clinic?" Mom asked. "The one where you're clearly seen with Jake on the day you conceived? The clinic you chose because you thought it was discreet? They have excellent security cameras, by the way." She pulled out her phone. "Should I play it for everyone?" Brittany's face had gone from pale to red to a strange greenish color. "But let me tell you what's really interesting," Mom continued, addressing the congregation now. 2 weeks before he died, William came to me. He knew about Jake. He'd seen you together at the store's security footage. He was planning to fire you and wanted my advice on how to do it without a lawsuit." She turned back to Brittany. "He knew the baby wasn't his. He was going to cut you off completely. The only reason he hadn't yet was because I asked him to wait." "Wait for what?" Brittany asked, her voice small now. "For this moment," Mom said simply. "For you to show everyone exactly who you are. A gold digger who tried to baby trap a married man with another man's child." Mom pulled out another document. "This is William's real will, updated a month ago. Would you like to know what he left you, Brittany? Nothing, not a single penny. He specifically excluded you and, quote, any child falsely attributed to me. However, Mom continued, I'm not heartless. You're pregnant and unemployed. I'm assuming you'll be terminated from the store immediately, so I'm prepared to offer you a deal. $5,000 to help with your prenatal care and moving expenses. In exchange, you sign this document acknowledging that William is not the father and that you have no claim to his estate. 5,000? Brittany screeched. His estate is worth millions. 8 million, to be precise, Mom said calmly, which will go to his actual family, his wife of 35 years who helped build that fortune, his daughters who are actually his blood, not to a con artist who couldn't even execute her scheme properly. She held out the document and a pen. You have 30 seconds to decide. After that, the offer is withdrawn, and I'll pursue charges for attempted fraud and extortion. I believe the security footage of you tampering with the store's books to make it look like William gave you raises and bonuses you never received will be particularly interesting to the district attorney. Brittany snatched the pen and signed the document, her hands shaking. Without another word, she turned and practically ran from the chapel, her heels clicking frantically on the floor. Mom returned to her seat as if nothing had happened. Pastor Johnson, please continue with the service. The rest of the funeral was a blur. No one could focus on the eulogy or the hymns. Everyone was buzzing about what they'd just witnessed. At the reception afterward, Emma was in shock. Mom, did you know? This whole time? I've known about your father's affairs for years, Mom said quietly. This wasn't his first, just his most recent. Why didn't you leave him? I asked. Because I was building something, she replied. Every affair, every indiscretion, I documented. Every penny he spent on other women, I tracked. I was waiting. For what? Emma demanded. For the right moment. Your father and I had a prenuptial agreement. If I divorced him for infidelity, I'd get half of what we built together. But if he died while we were married, I'd get everything. I wasn't going to let him destroy our family and walk away with half of what I helped create. The DNA test, I said slowly. How did you get Brittany's DNA? Mom smiled for the first time since Dad died. She was sloppy. Coffee cups she threw away at the store. Hairbrushes she left in the bathroom. When you suspect someone is trying to con your family, you become very resourceful. Over the next few days, the full story emerged. Mom showed us the investigators' reports. Brittany had targeted Dad specifically. She'd researched his net worth, his habits, and his weaknesses. She'd gotten a job at his flagship store with the sole intention of seducing him. The plan was simple. Have an affair, get pregnant, by anyone, claim it was his, and either break up the marriage for a big payout or blackmail him for support. What she hadn't counted on was Mom being 10 steps ahead. She made 3 critical mistakes, Mom explained. First, she underestimated me, assuming I was just another oblivious wife. Second, she was too greedy, asking for half the estate instead of a reasonable amount that might have been paid to make her go away quietly. And third, she kept Jake around as backup, not realizing he'd sell her out for a few $1,000s and immunity from prosecution. The investigator had approached Jake weeks ago. Faced with evidence of the fraud and the possibility of jail time, he'd cooperated fully, providing text messages, recordings, and even agreeing to a paternity test. But Mom, Emma said, still processing everything, weren't you hurt by Dad's affairs? The first one nearly destroyed me, Mom admitted. That was 15 years ago. But then I realized something. Your father was never going to change, so I could either be a victim or I could be strategic. I chose strategic. She showed us a spreadsheet she'd been maintaining for over a decade. Every affair was documented, every suspicious transaction recorded, every lie cataloged. Your father thought he was so clever, but he was predictable. Always women in their 20s, always employees or service workers he had power over. Always the same pattern: lavish gifts, promises to leave me, then moving on when they got too demanding. How many were there? I asked, not sure I wanted to know. 12 that I documented, probably more that I didn't catch. Over the next week, more details emerged. Dad's attorney confirmed that the will had been updated a month before his death, explicitly excluding Brittany and any potential children from her. Security footage from the store showed Brittany accessing the office after hours, attempting to create false documentation of gifts and bonuses. The store's management team, freed from Dad's control, revealed more. Brittany wasn't the only employee he'd been inappropriate with. There were complaints that had been suppressed, settlements that had been paid quietly. Mom had documentation of all of it. "I protected the business," Mom said. "Every settlement came from his personal accounts, not company funds. The stores are clean, legally and financially." 2 weeks after the funeral, we held a family meeting at Mom's house. She laid out the complete financial picture. The stores were worth about $5 million. The house was paid off and worth $1.2 million, and there was about $1.8 million in investments and savings. "Each of you girls will receive $1 million from your father's life insurance policies," she said. "The rest stays with me. I earned it." "What about the stores?" I asked. "I'm selling them," Mom said without hesitation. "I've already had offers. The employees will be protected. I've negotiated to keep everyone on with the new owners." "And then what?" Emma asked. "What will you do?" Mom smiled, and for the first time in years it reached her eyes. "I'm going to travel, take cooking classes in Paris, learn to paint in Tuscany. All the things I put on hold to build his dreams." She pulled out another folder. "But first, there's something else. Brittany wasn't the only woman who might come forward. I've identified 3 others who were involved with your father in the last 5 years, who might try to make claims on the estate." She showed us surveillance photos, text messages, and financial records. Melissa from the country club, Jennifer from his gym, and Monica from the supplier company. None of them are pregnant, thankfully, but they all received gifts that they might claim were promises. "What are you going to do?" I asked. "Nothing," Mom said. "My lawyer has already sent them letters. Any gifts they received were documented as bonuses or legitimate business expenses. If they want to claim otherwise, they'll have to admit to affairs with a married man and potentially face tax evasion charges for unreported income." A month has passed since the funeral. Brittany had her baby, a boy who looks exactly like Jake Martinez. She tried one last time to claim Dad was the father, even going to a tabloid with her story. Mom's lawyer shut it down with the DNA evidence and security footage of Brittany doctoring documents. The stores sold for $5.3 million to a regional chain. Mom donated $300,000 to a women's shelter, specifically for women leaving abusive relationships. "Financial abuse is still abuse," she said. "Emma and I are still processing everything. Our image of our parents' marriage, our childhood, our father, it's all been shattered and rebuilt. Dad wasn't the successful businessman we thought he was. Mom wasn't the passive housewife she appeared to be." "Do you hate him?" I asked Mom last week. "No," she said after thinking. "I pity him. He had everything: a loving family, successful business, respect in the community, and he threw it away for temporary thrills. He died thinking he was fooling everyone, never knowing that the fool was him." Mom has started her travel planning. First stop, Greece. She's taking a solo cruise through the Mediterranean, something she'd wanted to do for their 25th anniversary, but Dad had called it boring. "Are you going to date again?" Emma asked her. "Maybe," Mom said, "but any man I meet will know exactly who I am from the start. No more pretending to be less than I am." She's also started therapy, encouraging both Emma and me to do the same. "We all have damage from this," she said. "I spent 15 years in survival mode. That takes a toll." Yesterday, Mom called me excited about something. She'd received a letter from a woman named Sandra, who had seen news coverage of the funeral incident. "Your story gave me courage," Sandra wrote. "I've been documenting my husband's affairs for 3 years, but was too scared to act. After seeing what you did, I filed for divorce and hired a forensic accountant. Thank you for showing me that we don't have to be victims." Mom has received dozens of similar letters. Women trapped in marriages with serial cheaters, finding inspiration in her story. 3 months have now passed since that dramatic funeral. The estate is settled, the stores are sold, and Mom leaves for Greece next week. She's bought a whole new wardrobe, bright colors and flowing fabrics, nothing like the conservative clothes she wore during her marriage. I dressed how he wanted me to dress, she said. Professional but not too stylish, attractive but not too attention-getting. Now I dress for me. The house feels different now, lighter somehow. Mom has redecorated, removing all traces of Dad except for a few family photos from when Emma and I were young, before everything went wrong, as she puts it. She's turned Dad's office into an art studio for Emma. The man cave in the basement is now a yoga studio. His closet has been converted into a reading nook. I'm reclaiming my space, she says. Brittany, we heard through the grapevine, moved to another state with Jake. They're struggling financially, and she's working as a waitress. She tried to start a GoFundMe claiming she was a victim of a wealthy family's manipulation, but it was taken down after Mom's lawyer provided evidence of her fraud. Jake left her last month, according to social media. He posted something about not being able to trust someone who would lie about their baby's father. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. One of Dad's former mistresses, Jennifer from the gym, actually reached out to Mom to apologize. I didn't know he was lying to me too, she said. I thought I was special. I thought he really was leaving you. I'm sorry for my part in hurting your family. Mom accepted the apology but made it clear there would be no friendship. You knew he was married. That's all that matters. The most surprising revelation came last week. Mom showed us a safety deposit box we didn't know existed. Inside were journals dating back 20 years. I started writing the day after I discovered his first affair, she explained. Every emotion, every plan, every small victory. The early entries are heartbreaking. A young wife discovering her husband's betrayal, trying to hold her family together. But over the years, the tone changes. The victim becomes a strategist. The broken woman becomes unbreakable. This is your real inheritance, she told us. The knowledge that you can survive anything if you're smart about it. The final journal entry, dated the day before Dad's death, is chilling in its prescience. Something's going to happen soon. William is getting sloppy, and this new girl, Brittany, is different from the others. She's hungrier, more desperate. If she's pregnant like I suspect, she'll make a move soon. I'm ready for whatever comes. It's like she knew somehow that the endgame was approaching. As I sit here now watching Mom pack for her trip, I realize that the woman I thought was a victim was actually the architect of her own liberation. She didn't just survive Dad's betrayals. She documented them, planned around them, and ultimately used them to secure her freedom. Was it worth it? I asked her one final time. Every moment of patience, every documented lie, every night I pretended not to know where he really was. Yes, it was worth it. Not for the money, but for this moment. For my freedom. For showing you and Emma that women don't have to accept being treated as less than. We can be strategic. We can be patient. And in the end, we can win. Mom leaves tomorrow for her new life. Emma and I will stay here, building our own futures with the knowledge that we come from a line of women who refuse to be victims. Dad may have given us his DNA, but Mom gave us something far more valuable, the blueprint for turning betrayal into triumph. Some might call her calculating. Others might say she was cruel to expose Brittany so publicly. But I see a woman who spent 15 years gathering evidence, protecting her children's inheritance, and waiting for the perfect moment to reveal the truth. The funeral that was meant to honor my father's life instead became the stage for my mother's liberation. And honestly, I think she earned every moment of that victory. What would you have done in my mother's position? Would you have confronted the mistress publicly or handled it privately? Let me know in the comments below, and if you found this story compelling, please like and subscribe for more real-life family dramas where the truth always finds a way to surface. Remember, sometimes the person you think is the victim is actually the one holding all the cards. They're just waiting for the right moment to play them.